How's it going, guys? Alex from 734 Speed here, and we're back with another video. Today we're finally going to get this engine out of the way. We're going to start by pulling the axles, and then there's a couple things left on the transmission that we got to pull. After that, whole engine comes right back out, and yeah, so without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to want to do is pull off our tire. We're going to start on the passenger side, since I've been told that's the easier side, and then we'll go over to the driver's side after that. So let's get this tire off. Alright, so we got the tire off now. Next thing we're going to do is take our brake caliper off and zip tie that to our coil spring up there. And to do that, remove your anti-rattle spring, and then there are two bolts on the back, one on the top, one on the bottom, that hold the caliper on. So we'll get that off, hang it up on the coil spring, then we can take off our brake disc. Alright, so now that we got the caliper and rotor off, we can move to taking the cotter pin off of that tie rod and get our tie rod off of the knuckle. Basically after that, we will start working on the end link right there, and then get the knuckle free from the strut and basically pull that down out of the way, and we should be able to get the axle out. You can just see by all the grease in here just how fucked that axle really was. Pretty nasty in there. Alright, so that was easy. Tie rod popped right off. Next thing we're going to do is take this bolt off of the end link, and I believe take a open or a box-ended wrench, put it around there. Allen key goes in the middle. If that stud starts to turn, most likely you're going to have to go that route. So let's pull this end link off, and then we'll move on to the knuckle. Alright, so we got that end link off. Next step is going to be to at least loosen this axle nut. I don't think we completely remove it just yet. However, I do not have a socket large enough to fit that, so I'm going to have to look up what size it is, run to my local parts store right down the road, get a socket that'll work for that so we can crank that axle nut loose. After that, we'll work on getting this knuckle loose from the strut, and we can pull this passenger side axle. Alright guys, so we're back. It's been a couple days waiting for my buddy Justin from 734 Performance to come over here, and he's got a couple impact guns. He's going to help us get these axles out of the Mazda. So I've gone ahead and basically pulled everything down to the same side that we did on the passenger side to the driver's side. As you can see here, my camera won't let me flip and film at the same time, but the driver's side, same process as the passenger side. So now both of them are ready to remove the axle nuts, and then after we remove the axle nuts, we can go ahead and get that steering knuckle free from the strut tower, and then the whole thing should just come off. I figured if we cannot get the axle nuts off, we can just pull the whole steering knuckle and hub assembly with the axles, and I've got new axles from Drive Shaft Shop sitting in my office right now. What we'll do is we'll just buy new OEM steering knuckles, and I wanted to do new wheel bearings on this anyways because these are stock with over 120-something thousand miles on it. So I'll just bite the bullet, I guess, and get the new knuckles if I can't get them off, because it's pretty rusted on. So we'll see how that goes. I'll keep you all updated. But yeah, that motor's coming out today regardless. Alright. So my buddy Justin from 734 Performance just got that axle nut off. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take off these bolts on the top and the bottom of the knuckle. That'll let us get the knuckle away from our lower control arm, and then we can pull the axles out. Alright, so we got the lower control arm off. Justin's working on getting the top of it off. Then we can get the axle out. Alright, so we got the steering knuckle off. The next thing we're going to do is take the 3 bolts off to this bracket that hold the axle to the block. Alright, so we got that axle out. It was easy enough, just unbolt those 3 bolts and pull it out. Came out in one big piece. So this side's been previously stripped down, like I said before. We're just going to zip this axle nut off, do the same thing, get the steering knuckle off, and pull the whole axle out. Alright, so we got that axle out from the hub. It's separated inside, so it's giving us a hard time. So we're just going to pull the motor with it in and then deal with it when it's out. Next thing we're going to do is take our slave cylinder off. There's a bolt that holds that on. Take the line off. And then these 2 transmission cables or linkages, we'll take that off. There's a clip back here for the clutch line. We'll take that off. And then we can get to the motor mounts. Alright, so we got the line free from the slave cylinder and the lines going to the transmission. Now we're going to remove the motor mounts. We got 2 bolts right here. Actually, we'll probably just take the 2 bolts off on this one, on the frame, on the passenger side. The rear motor mount, 1 bolt holds that in. And on the transmission motor mount, we remove this top plate, and then there's 2 bolts that hold that on. Alright, so the motor is finally out. We're working on getting the transmission unbolted from the block, so that way we can get this block back in the Cork Sport shipping box and get my damn core refund back. That'll buy the new intake manifold. So, new block sitting pretty up there. Got a lot of degreasing and cleaning and shit to do, but I'll worry about that a different day. Alright, so the motor's out, the trans is separated. Still got to pull the axle, pull the water pump pulley. What else do we got to do? We got to get the clutch off. We got to get the exhaust manifold studs off the back. And then get this bitch in the shipping crate and off to Cork Sport. But what do you think, Justin? How's she look?
New one or old one? I mean, the new one looks great. This is definitely degrease, new clutch.
Nice.
On this are shot.
Alright, so I forgot to film taking the water pump off. However, it was just 3 bolts. 1, 2, and 3. I left the pulley on just because it was spinning, so I'll have to put that in a vise to get the pulley off. Next thing we're going to do is get the clutch off. There's 6 bolts that go around here that are holding it off. I already took this one off. Forgot almost to film this again. But yeah, we'll take the 6 bolts holding the pressure plate off, then we can get to the flywheel and get this thing out of here. Alright, so the clutch came off easy. Next step is to remove the 6 12mm bolts holding on the flywheel, and then we'll be ready to wrap this video up. Alright, so we got the flywheel off, easy enough. So yeah, I believe that is all that is left to do on this motor. It is basically completely stripped down, good enough to send back to Cork Sport or throw it on Craigslist if I can get more that way. I don't know, gotta look into that. But anyways, we're making progress. So I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Please give me a thumbs up. Feel free to comment any questions you have, and make sure to subscribe. Thank you for watching.